starting 11 and bench that oversaw that dramatic late victory against Mansfield Town this time last week. Big relief though, Callum Cook is in the starting 11.
What do you make to that then, City fans? Unchanged from the side that beat Mansfield so dramatically last week. Pretty expected, would you say? Would you have other opinions? You can text me on 81333, starting that message with WYS. You can tweet me at BBCWYS. And remember, after the game, no matter the result, you can have your say on the bantams on the football forum by dialing 0800 389 3333. It's match day 5 of the League 2 campaign. Bradford City are at Leyton Orient.
If it's not, I'm throwing my toys out the pram. Just so you know. I prefer this so much to a green screen. To the 2 on a green screen at least. It feels like Good Morning Britain or something. Or like the Oprah Winfrey interview.
Good Morning Britain's a real set.
Yeah.
I was there on Tuesday.
It's not a real window though, is it?
No, it's a video. So like complaints about people not wearing masks. And then say, well, no, it's a recording, you did.
Yeah. But they do that thing where it looks like they're sat next to each other, but they're actually on opposite sides and they just put them together in it.
They're sat right next to each other and they use the vision mixer to move them closer.
Yeah.
another nappy bedroom wall.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome indeed to Orient Live. The O's are facing high-flying Bradford this afternoon, and I'm joined by some familiar faces in Andrew Butler and Glenn Wilkie. And before we go any further with today's show, let's take a look at the O's starting 11. So in goal, number 22, Lawrence Figueroa. Right back, number 2, Tom James. And on the opposite side, at left back, returning to the side, number 3, Connor Woods. Centre back, number 5, Dan Happy. Returning into midfield, number 8, Craig Clay. Keeping his place up top is the big man, number 9, Harry Smith. Out on the wide right will be number 11, Theo Archibald. Pratley. Joining Dan Happy at the back is number 19, it's Big Omar Beckles. Starting up top as well, Harry Smith, number 20, Ruel Sotiriou. And number 26, Hector Cipriano. Partners Darren. And it's a young bench for the O's today with number 20, number 10, Dan Tyrese Omotoye, 23, Anthony Papadopoulos, 24, Jaden Sweeney, 25, Shad Oji, and 28, Dan Nkrumah. So there is, of course, the Orient starting 11 in all of its glory. And it's the 3 changes today, Glenn. I know we were here together on Tuesday night. Let's start with probably the main talking point. It's Craig Clay coming back in for Dan Kemp. Do you think that's to slightly shore things up a little bit more for the O's in midfield?
Yeah, I can't see Craig playing further forward than Kemp well, so I presume he's going to play when we haven't got the ball. He's going to drop back beside Hector. So we'll have a solid 3 from that back 4. So that's what I'm thinking going forward. Is it a case of we're trying to stop Bradford, or are we looking to go and win the game? That's be really, really interesting to see how we do set up when we've got the ball, because we know Craig Clay isn't going to play further forward. Personally, I don't think so. I think he might even push a bit further out wide.
And he obviously came in for Dan Kemp. Ruel Sotiriou came in for Tyrese Omotoye, who made his debut on Tuesday night. Again, talking of that wide position, Ruel Sotiriou looked really lively when he came on Tuesday, and maybe Omotoye didn't get much of a sniff out in them wide areas. Do you think that's on Kenny Jackett's mind today to make it as effective as possible out wide?
Yeah, definitely. All I would say is Omotoye on Tuesday night, he didn't get given the ball. Okay, we can question, was his movement right? Was he getting out into good positions to receive it? But he didn't get the ball. So he had a quiet game, I would say, and probably justifies the change today. I think after Tuesday night's performance, and it was very lacklustre, changes needed to be made. Now let's hope that the 3 guys coming in are positive and we go on and get a positive result.
Absolutely, and it needs to be positive because, well, welcome back first of all, Andrew. Hope you had a lovely summer. It needs to be positive as well because we started the season in relatively good form, but Tuesday night hopefully was just a blip.
Yeah, it feels like we kind of took 2 steps forward, then 1 step back on Tuesday. Like you say, we've had a really reasonable start to the season. It's not been spectacular, but that win against Exeter was an absolutely fantastic performance. You hope that you build on that kind of performance, and going away to Carlisle getting a point is an all right result. But losing to Harrogate in the manner in which we did was really disappointing. It's not an easy start to the season by any stretch of the imagination. Going away to Salford, playing Exeter, playing Harrogate, who've now gone on to win their 3 games already this season, and now welcoming Bradford here to the Brer Group is a really, really tricky start to the season. So it's a really you can look at it in a way of, it's tricky, but what a great test it is to have these sort of fixtures up top at the start of the season, because we need to bounce back from Tuesday evening, and Bradford are going to a lot of people are tipping them as favourites for League 2, so we've got to be right up for it this afternoon, and hopefully we'll see some sort of response, because it wasn't good enough on Tuesday.
It certainly wasn't, and we are of course going to be looking in a lot more detail to today's game, which kicks off in just over 25 minutes. But just to remind you, if you're watching at home, we'll be having Matt Lockwood, our first inductee from the fans' vote to that Orient Hall of Fame. He's going to be joining us
on a call very, very shortly. So make sure if you've got any questions, tweet them in using the hashtag OrientLive, and we'll be putting them to him shortly. Let's take a look at the Orient side still, though, Glenn. It looks as though it will be Hector Cipriano, Darren Prattley and Craig Clay in that midfield. Do you think Craig might drift out wide? But I think Cipriano and Prattley will both be looking to up their game from Tuesday. And obviously Craig Clay's coming in and showing Kenny why he should be in that starting 11.
Yeah, I think it'll all depend on how they set up and the formation we play. Looking at the team, I can't see us playing the same formation that we started the game on Tuesday night. I just can't see that. Kenny Jackett after the game said that Harrogate did a job on us. Well, yeah, they did. They did their job, basically. They stopped Orient playing, they set traps up, put pressure on us and forced us to do stuff that we didn't want to do. We ended up hitting long balls going forward and we wasn't getting anyone up around supporting Smith up front for the knockdowns. It depends on how Bradford play. Will they, high flying, won their last 3 games, say we're going to worry about Orient, or are we going to go and play our game? Are we going to go and attack and do what we do good? I think it'll be a bit of a mix. I think they'll say, right, when the centre-backs for Orient get the ball, do we go and put pressure on them and force them to kick it long? And then we can just clean up at the back and then we can go and impose ourselves on the game. Or do we let them have the ball and hope that they pass it into Hector or Prattley in there, but be close enough to put them under pressure and try and nick the ball, what Harrogate did for the first goal on Tuesday night. So it'd be very interesting to see how they play. I don't know how we're going to set up. Me personally, will we go with a 4-4-2? Is Clay a right winger? Possibly not. But it'd be very... Kenny Jackett's more experienced than me. They'll have some kind of master plan, I'm sure, on how they're going to set up and how we're going to try and win this game today.
Absolutely. And you spoke there about how Kenny said Harrogate did a job on us. Do you think that might be a sign? Obviously, we're a fairly new team being formed, a lot of new faces getting to know each other. Do you think that could have anything to play with it? We just didn't know how to deal with that.
I mean, look, I think, you know, a lot of teams across the division, you know, have that same issue at the start of it every season, you know, a big turnover, but this has been our biggest turnover for a couple of seasons now. So it might be that, you know, we're only 4 games into the season. I'd say that after today, this is kind of like the big barometer for like the rest of the season. You know, Kenny's had enough chance to see, you know, different players in different positions, different systems as well after today, you know, especially considering that we might be playing, you know, a slightly different system to what we have been seeing over the course of the season so far. So a really good, you know, good chance to see after the first 5 games and assess where we're at and you know what we can expect to see probably from the rest of the season. So you know, Tuesday, as we've all said, wasn't good enough, but after 5 games after this afternoon will be good to see where we're at, because you know, Connor Wood's coming back into the team after having Jaden Sweeney and Shad Oji in that position already this season as well. So I suppose that you get a good chance to see every player in their positions, see who's bedding into the team best after, you know, a very, very busy summer of activity here at the club, and then go on from there. So we'll see.
Yeah, and just touching on that left back spot there, as you've alluded to, we've had 3 players playing that position already this season. It does feel as though Kenny's still getting to know his squad. The rest of the defence has been quite consistent, but in certain areas it feels as though Kenny's still fine-tuning and trying to perfect that build to his team.
And that's absolutely fine to be doing at this stage of the season. You know, he's come in and he needs to look at those players, especially considering how young, say, Sweeney and OG are. You know, they're players who are at the club already. Wood only joined in the summer, of course. So it's just giving them a chance to see what they're about and prove themselves as well, especially under a new manager. So Wood coming back in, I mean, I don't know what that says about where Kenny will go on from after this afternoon, but I suppose because he started the first couple of games of the season and pre-season, that, you know, it might just be that, right, okay, here's your chance to really prove yourself against a good team, and if not, then maybe picking up one of the other 2.
Do you know the difficult thing with that left back position? We said he's making changes during the season to suss the players out that left back spot. It's really difficult because he sees them in training every single day. Some players naturally are really rubbish trainers, but they turn up for games and they're brilliant in games and very consistent. Others are brilliant in training. They get on the pitch, especially younger lads. the atmosphere, the energy, everything, it affects him in different ways. So he's had no choice but to start different players in that position to try and see how they react to a game situation, and coming up against experienced players on oppositions as well. So there's no other choice but to throw him in and sink or swim, basically.
Do you know what I find most funny about the left back position? Obviously last season we always had the James Brophy or Joe Widdowson debate. You know, we're about to hear from probably our greatest left back in history. It just seems to always be the position that causes some debate. It
certainly does. Well, let's move away from the left back for just a minute. We're going to be hearing from Kenny Jackett shortly. But if we look further up the pitch, there's been a lot of combinations up top already. Only 4 or 5 games in. It felt as though we maybe slightly missed drilling on Tuesday night, and it certainly affected the way we played. It felt, Glenn. It
did. Listening to supporters after the game, they were saying we're playing hoofball, we're playing long ball, we're doing this, we're doing that. Harrogate made us do that. I don't think it was our tactic to go out and play that way. What they did, they put us under an enormous amount of pressure at the back and forced us basically to kick the ball long, because we saw for the first goal we tried to play our way out and try to be brave, and we got caught with the ball on the edge of the box and they went and scored. After that, it's like, we're not making any more mistakes, we're not going to put the ball at risk in front of our box trying to play that way, because Harrogate were very good at closing us down very quickly. It forced us then, for the centre backs and the 2 full backs, when they got the ball, it forced us to go long to Smith. The problem with what I saw with that is, okay, that's the right thing to do, or to put the ball into the corners and get us up the pitch and try and close them down and win the ball up in them areas. The problem with going to Smith was Kemp and the other 2 around him, when the ball's in the air, and I said this Tuesday, they need to get closer to him for the knockdown and to try and pick the ball up in that and sustain some kind of pressure up in and around their box. We didn't do that. The ball was going long and he was so isolated, they was either heading it down to their players or letting it run through, and the midfield and the defenders never got a break. They never got a break because they was constantly on the back foot and it was coming back at them. If it's going to go up to the front man and he's up there on his own, it needs to go in with quality. It needs to go into his feet, it needs to go into his chest so he can hold the ball and then bring the midfielders into play if they're too far back. But we didn't recognise that as a midfield on Tuesday night early enough, and that's what caused the problems what we had.
No, for sure. And I'm absolutely sure that Kenny Jackett will be hoping for a little bit more cohesion and certainly a few more goals this afternoon against Bradford. But it is, of course, time to hear from the man himself, Kenny Jackett. We caught up with him before the game, so let's hear his thoughts.
Kenny, thank you for joining us. It's Bradford City up next, and we'll be looking to bounce back from the defeat in midweek.
Yeah, we will. And you know, looking at the game again, you know, we obviously 5 minutes into the second half needed that penalty to give us some momentum, but keeper made a good save from Aaron Drinham being out as well, you know, our regular penalty taker. But similarly, I don't think really we did enough going forward as a game, though. I do feel that we need to improve on that as well, and we can improve. While you know, overall it was a very tight game. Nature of the goals that we conceded, you know, getting caught in our own half, really, they did look defendable as well. But after those details, as you say, you know, we are looking to bounce back, put a lot of energy and effort into this game on Saturday. Bradford have started well. They'll bring, you know, a good and passionate crowd. It'll make it a great atmosphere, you know, for us. We'll need our crowd to stick with us, but similarly, we'll have to put on a performance of passion and competition as well against, you know, a side that have got, at the moment, the favourites tags, and quite rightly so with the size of the club. But you know, it's our home game. We want to establish ourselves on them. We do want to bounce back result-wise, because you don't want to lose 2 home games in a week. You really don't. And so, big effort, big energy from everybody and from our players. For me to put them out there with the right setup, the right mindset to go on and challenge these for the 3 points.
It's going to be a packed house on Saturday. It's going to be a really good atmosphere.
It will, and we'll need our crowd. But for us, we'll need to put on the performance that encourages the crowd for them to get behind us. But it will be a good atmosphere, big game. One of the biggest games of the season, with Bradford coming to town, and everybody here down at the training ground is looking forward to it. The opportunity to bounce back result-wise, but also for the game in itself, and for us to try to establish ourselves as a force in League Two, which is our aim.
Top stuff there from Kenny, and now we have, of course, got the Orient legend, and that is not an exaggeration whatsoever. He got the most votes from you fans for being inducted into the Leyton Orient Hall of Fame. We should be joined now live by Matt Lockwood. Matt, can you hear me?
I sure can. Good afternoon, guys. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Matt. I'm guessing you're joining us from up in sunny Scotland at the moment. How is everything up there?
Beautiful and sunny, so can't argue.
Well, it's certainly a bit nicer than here in London. Now, of course, the reason why you're joining us today, Matt, is you received the most votes from all of the fans to be inducted into the Leyton Orient Hall of Fame. First of all, just can you sum up how that feels to still be so loved and adored by the fans to this day?
It is lovely. I saw on social media that this was sort of coming up and the Hall of Fame thing had started, and I suppose I sat there and thought, well, maybe I'm in with a chance here of being involved and getting voted. But to actually, for the fans to, choose me and put me top of the list, it was a proud moment. It really was. I'm not going to lie. It did mean a lot because I spent a lot of time at Orient. They were a big part of my career. I gave them everything I had, and the fact that they have then gone and recognised that, bearing in mind I left, 13, 14 years ago, and they still speak so highly of me, it's lovely. It's really nice to hear.
Well, as you know very well, the fans are very grateful for all of the great moments you gave us while she was wearing an Orient shirt. And we're going to start off with the first question that we've had in from a fan. It's from @JC Bowers Brown. He's asked for your top 3 moments at the O's. Now, I can kind of guess that your top 3 moments might have all come in one game in a hat-trick, but if you could tell us your actual top 3 moments of the O's, that'd be great.
So I think it would probably be the game at Oxford would be number 1, because that was, for me, that was a culmination of the whole season. It wasn't just one individual moment that I was involved in. It was a team effort that we grafted for 10 months to achieve that. And plus, when I came to Orient back in 1998, the target was to get promoted straight away. The fact it took us sort of 7-8 years to do so was annoying, but for me that was the number 1. That day was amazing, and it was really fantastic to be involved in. I would say the second one would probably be the hat trick.
I'm not sure if you can see on screen at the moment, Matt, but the viewers at home are currently watching your hat trick now. Just tell us about that night.
Yeah, I mean it was a weird one because we were rubbish. We were 3-0 down, and rightly so. As you guys were saying about the results on Tuesday, it wasn't good enough from us for 70 minutes of the game. Fans were leaving, booing, and again, rightly so. I don't blame them at all. And then we go and get a penalty, which obviously I always knew I was going to score. Then we get a corner over on the right-hand side, so I'm sort of making my way over to go and take it. Darryl McMahon's gone over before me, got the ball. And I was like, well, okay, well, if you're going to do it early, give it to me on the edge of the box, then we can see what happens. And I got, I was just trying to hit the target, to be fair. I got slightly lucky with a little deflection, and the goalkeeper made a bit of a hash up of it. And then the last one, as the ball came out to me from this header here, as it comes out, I'm thinking, should I hit this on the volley? And I was thinking, no, know your limits, Mr. Lockwood. That's definitely not going to happen. And I just went on the overlap like I always used to do, and Darryl managed to play me back in. And the winger obviously didn't track me, so I just thought, right, here we are, I've got a chance now. So I had a choice. Do I square it for Gary Alexander for a tap-in, which was never going to happen in a million years, or do I shoot near post and try and get a hat-trick that, let's be honest, it was never going to happen again. I was never going to be in that position to have that chance. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to be greedy here and go for it. And yeah, luckily enough, it went in. And I suppose it goes down in people's memories, doesn't it? Because for a centre-forward to score a hat-trick, not that it happens all the time, but you sort of half expect a forward to score goals and maybe to get a hat-trick in a season. But for a left-back to do it in 11 minutes or wherever it was is very, very unique. So, I'm very proud of that. And then I would say the third top moment would be the goal against Hull in the playoff semi-final. I mean, again, to score a goal of that quality, you see that happening week in, week out, don't you? Lads smashing it in from 30 yards. But then to do it in such a big game that got us through then to the playoff final, I think that just makes it all the more special because it was on such a big night in front of a full house at Brisbane Road. And even when you watch the footage back on that, just seeing Barry Hernan and his wife up in the director's box dancing around, just to put smiles on people's faces and to know how important those those moments were, is really nice. And it's funny actually. So I think there was something on social media that maybe it was 20 years ago from that game or that goal, and even the whole fans still talk about it, and they use my name. They had a name in between Matt and Lockwood. They add a swear word in. They don't really like me, do they? Because I think I ruined their evening. But from an Orient point of view, it was a fantastic night. And I mean, there are so many other moments that I enjoyed with the playoff semi-final wins, penalty shootouts, and everything. It was a very good 9 years I had at Orient. That's for sure.
That is certainly for sure, and I don't think a match day goes past here in E10 without your name being mentioned by a fan of one of those memories. So thanks for talking us through them today, and I'm glad you spoke about penalties. We'll talk about it really quickly because I'm not sure if you've followed too much of the O's in recent weeks, but we haven't, or even the second half of last season, we haven't really had the best of luck from the penalty spot of recent times. And we've had a few people on Twitter ask if you could share some knowledge and just maybe give a little tip for the O's penalty takers.
It's funny, it's because we saw in the Euros, didn't we, what happened to the England lads, and it's, you can practice all you like in training. And it was funny actually, because Tommy Taylor used to say to me when I would go and practice after training, he'd be like, "Matt, why are you practicing for?" And I was like, a bit of a weird question, why would I not practice? And he said, "Well, have you missed yet?" And he said, "No." He said, "Well, then you don't need to practice." And I didn't agree with that, obviously, but you can't recreate the pressure in a game. But I think for me, I was always very, the penalties that I scored, I always knew what I was going to do. As I placed the ball on the spot and I looked at the keeper and assessed what I was going to do, I didn't change my mind. I was like, right, I'm going in that corner and I'm going to hit it hard or bend it or whatever technique I was going to use, I was just going to really commit to that. And I always knew that if I connected properly, the keeper wouldn't save it. And I think over my record of penalties for Orient, I think that probably proved that I was fairly sort of confident and decisive in those moments, because I didn't miss many, and the ones I did was when I was actually a little bit indecisive. So I think Kenny said there in his interview that his regular penalty taker obviously wasn't on the pitch for the one on Tuesday, and I have seen the penalty that Smith took, and it wasn't the best penalty in the world. But it is a confidence thing. And as soon as someone stands there and is like, yeah, I fancy this, 9 times out of 10 you will score. So I think they've just got to persevere. And if they want me to come back and do special teams, I can jog on, take the penalty and come straight back.
Well, I was going to say I'm going to have to run down to the dressing room to pass on your pearls of wisdom to the boys down in the dressing room. But thank you so much for that, Matt, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. Hopefully we'll see you down here in E10 sooner rather than later. And of course, congratulations on being inducted into that Hall of Fame once again. And we'll see you soon. Thank you so much, Matt. And now kickoff is rapidly approaching, Andrew. And I think it's probably a good time we take a look at Bradford. They've been in good form this season. They're going to provide a tough test to the O's this afternoon.
Yeah, massively. The last 3 games they've scored 9 goals, 3 wins. An excellent away win against Mansfield. They won 3-2 there last weekend. And we have to take the game to them because they'll be probably coming here to expect to win. There's 900 fans here as well. They travel well. They're a massive club for this level of football too. But
they had 18,000 fans at their home game. That for their first league game of the season, that says the size of the club that they are, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's such a cliche. But at the end of the day, it's still 11 men versus 11 as well. So we have to take the game to them. They're a good side, though, very consistent in terms of their form, but also the way that they set up on the field as well. So their lineup hasn't changed since last weekend. Some really good players in there. A striker on such a hot streak in Andy Cook, who's got 4 goals already this season. So it will be a tough test, but as I said at the top of the programme, it's kind of good. It's a bit of a privilege actually to have these tests right at the top of the season, because it will kind of give us a good barometer of where we're at going in forward into the season.
It certainly will. And of course, as Andrew just said, there is 11 men against 11 men. So let's take a look at the starting 11 for the boys in claret and amber this afternoon. So, of course, in goal, number 1, Richard O'Donnell. Number 3, Liam Ridhow. Number 4, Powdy O'Connor. Number 5, Captain Niall Canavan. Number 6, Jan Songo. Number 8, Callum Cook. Number 9, Andy Cook. Number 11, Alex Gilead. Number 15, Charles Vernham. 18, Elliot Watt. And 24, Finn Cousin Dawson. And on the substitutes bench, Sam Hornby, Matthew Folds, Fiox Keller, Gareth Evans, Oliver Crankshaw, Kean Scales and Keelan Lavery. So, as you said there, Andrew, a strong Bradford side. Any names jump out for you, Glenn? And I'm going to come to you for predictions soon. I can hear the teams coming out.
I was just thinking about a prediction, actually. Should we just skip over their team?
I just want to get your final thoughts on the team, and then we'll push you for a prediction.
They're a very good team. They score goals. They win games. They're very streetwise. A bit like Harrogate were Tuesday. They've got a manager who won promotion last season. He knows how to win games of football in this league, so they're going to be very strong. There will definitely be goals in this game. I cannot see it being 0-0. So probably go if you get your money on 0-0. But no, there will be goals. What way they're going to go, I do not know.
Well, Glenn, I hope you're wrong. I hope you're right. Sorry, I hope it's not a 0-0. But I'm sure you will be wrong, as you always are with your predictions. But now it is, of course, time to pass over to the very capable hands of Dave Victor and Matt Hiscock. We'll join you at the studio in half-time. It's Leyton Orient versus Bradford City. Here we go.
Sections of the east stand on the far side. Leyton Orient forced to make one change before the start of this game, having made 2 to the starting 11 that faced Harrogate. Sam Oggy is in place of Dan Happy, and of course we know that Craig Clay returns, as does Connor Wood, to face his former club. In form Bradford City.